Hey everybody, I'm Clifford Stummy, the Pop Song Professor, and welcome to my channel where we make English class awesome by talking about song lyrics. Today we're talking about Nate by NF from this new album, and if you like NF, you should stick around with this channel because we're going to be talking about lots of NF songs, and it's pretty great because he's got some stuff to say, guys, and this song is probably one of the most vulnerable, interesting songs off the album. He's talking to the younger version of himself. It's, you know, a typical writing prompt, write a letter to your X-year-old self, and in this case, he chooses his 6-year-old self, and he has got some serious stuff to say. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Verse 1, yeah, sometimes I want to disappear just like I don't exist, or find a time machine and take me back when I was 6, maybe younger. Either way, I guess the point of it would be to tell that little kid that he's gonna take a lot of hits. This is the whole premise of the song. He's beginning it right now and he's saying, I want to say something to 6-year-old me about what's coming. And keep in mind, NF had a rough childhood, as we'll see as we jump into these lyrics, but out of that rough childhood came the music and the things that he has to say today. So he continues, yeah, I'd probably grab your hand and tell you life is hard. If you got questions or you need advice, then talk to God, because he's the only one that listens even when you think he isn't. So he's, suggesting that God is the solution to a lot of his younger self's problems. I know some things we could avoid to save embarrassment, but everything that breaks you down can also build your character. He's not going to give away things to avoid. He knows what's coming for this kid, and a lot of this song is about empathizing, but he's not trying to solve the problems. And I think, how many of us would make that exact decision if we could go back and fix some of those embarrassments? Yeah, I don't really know. But he's saying that those experiences actually turned into something good for him. In the same way that he's turned his bad experiences in the past into really great songs, right? He continues, I know you feel like you're alone and no one loves you maybe, and you uncover insecurities with lots of anger, which is a hallmark, trademark of NF's style. He sounds really angry. The weird thing is someday all of this will make you famous. That is kind of weird, right? You'll start to write about your life, and while they're all relating, talking about the fans, you'll make up a slogan, call it real life, right? But feel like you're the fakest. And that's, this imposter syndrome that a lot of creators have. I mean, I can empathize with that for sure, where I put out an explanation and I might seem confident that I know what I'm talking about in some of them. Some of them you can see the anxiety and the stress. But a lot of times I'm putting out explanations and I'm, sitting there waiting like, oh gosh, somebody's gonna prove me wrong. I don't know, I'm not good at this, whatever. And he feels the exact same way when he talks about this real life slogan. Like he probably second guesses whether he's actually showing the real life. And I feel like on this whole album, I've gotten, this vibe of a lot more directness and literal lyrics. Like in the past with Mansion and Therapy, it felt like there was a metaphor kind of protecting or separating us from some of what was going on. And he's already specifically mentioned OCD. He gets into his marriage relationship. He's talking about God. This already feels a lot more real than other albums. Not that they weren't real, but this just feels more close. It feels like we broke through a metaphor and now we're at the literal meaning. In the chorus he sings, I just want you to know you gonna make a lot of mistakes and they gonna laugh in your face. That's more of that stuff about embarrassment that he's apparently not gonna help this kid avoid. He's just like, yeah, that's how it goes. In verse 2 we hear, see, mom and dad are not together. Verse 2 is interesting because there's this distinct theme of mentioning the things that are hot points for this kid. He's just going down this laundry list of insecurities and traumas and things that happened that have shaped him to be who he is. See, mom and dad are not together, they took different routes, but you probably already knew, you're getting older now. Talks about how his mom would sneak guys into their house when she wasn't supposed to, otherwise dad would take the kids back, and that's a really rough place for a kid to be in. Lots of abandonment, as he says in this line. How we've always struggled with abandonment, and when we feel like someone's leaving, we start panicking. There's the second issue. He says passion is something we have never lacked. We see it most when we're writing rap, so he deals with a lot of this, and a lot of those really strong emotions, particularly anger, like he mentioned before, in his lyrics and in his music. Then another problem, we walk around with the devil talking on both shoulders. He doesn't feel like he always has that voice he needs to be able to balance out the negative thoughts or the suggestions to go and do something wrong. We get into verse 3 and he continues with the list of problems. You know how intoxicated people make us nervous, and then a line later, don't be scared, that's just trauma trying to reach the surface and tell us everyone we love is gonna try to hurt us. And then there's another problem. Yeah, you might get a glimpse of happiness from your achievements, but what you'll learn as you get older every time you reach one is you'll just make another goal that doesn't lead to freedom. That one hit hard for me, that hit home. And I'll say real quick that, you know, up until this point, from the beginning of verse 2 till mid verse 3, he's listing problems basically. Like, that's the whole goal. When he says, don't be scared, that's just trauma trying to reach the surface, he's really, you know, starting to flip the script and say, yeah, no, here's the you know, the problem, here's the solution. The solution in this case is self-awareness, realizing what's happening, which is a huge part of personal emotional healing, is just being self-aware and realizing what's happening, and that, you know, being able to separate those feelings from who you are. And so, you know, it takes all the way to verse 3 for him to like get to that point, right? But then we get to this part that really hit home with me. I mean, I feel like that's something that April and I have talked about a lot, and I'm still not exactly sure where I stand or how I feel about it, but if NF, somebody who's made millions, has this sort of thing figured out, I should probably listen to him maybe. But basically what he's saying is that he has these goals. He wants to make $1 million, or he wants to drop 3 albums, or whatever it is, or he wants to get a million likes on the Instagram picture. That's not one of his goals, I'm pretty sure. But he has these goals, and as soon as he reaches them, and keep in mind, he's had enough success, more success than many people see in a lifetime, than almost all people see in a lifetime, and he's only like 27. He's still late 20s. And so it's gotta be a little anticlimactic for him when he reaches the goal. He's like, wow, you know, maybe, he probably doesn't think, oh, I thought that would be harder, but he's definitely doing things that a lot of us will never actually achieve. So it's interesting when we hear that from somebody who's highly successful saying, what you'll learn as you get older, every time you reach an achievement, is you'll just make another goal that doesn't lead to freedom. And so even though he keeps reaching these goals that most people dream of, he just sets another goal beyond that, and he doesn't get to enjoy that happiness. It's just a striving after this feeling that he never actually accomplishes, because it's just time to set the next goal. That's something that people have told me I need to watch out for, and I don't know, it's really interesting to hear him say that. He goes on, finishes verse 3, kind of giving this list of the albums that he's dropped. At 24 you'll do this, at 25 you'll do that, and then at the end he says at 27 we'll make millions, but it's really sad because you'll learn to realize that none of this will make you happy. So NF's not happy because he's made millions. He's not happy because he's successful. I mean, we've heard that from a lot of different celebrities and a lot of people who you would think are super happy. I mean, why do you think celebrities commit suicide? It's because, you know, I think a lot of what NF is talking about could be very applicable to that conversation. Finally, we get into the outro. I wish that I could look at you with empathy, and, you know, he wants to look at his younger self and say, yeah, I feel bad for you, man. Sometimes I feel like I've become what you were scared to be, which makes it really hard to look at you with sympathy, because if I'm feeling bad for you, then I have to feel bad for me, but that's just something I feel like we don't deserve. That's why I'm always looking down on you. I know it hurts. And if I had to guess here, I would say that he's basically saying, you know, I don't want to have to feel bad for me, so I can't feel bad for you. I can't give you that empathy, because if I do, then I have to feel bad for me, and it's just not a healthy place to be. And so that's why he's giving kind of this tough love and this advice without giving like practical help necessarily, the kind of help where you're like, no, avoid this, avoid that, invest in Apple stocks, whatever. He's basically just giving that empathy and staying away from sympathy. Empathy is saying, I feel what you're feeling. Sympathy is being like, oh man, that must suck. And so he's coming alongside, but he's not fixing things, and he's not, you know, pitying himself, because then you'd have to pity himself now, because he's that 6-year-old kid 21 years down the road. Yeah guys, this was the explanation of Nate by NF. If you enjoyed this one, you should check out Leave Me Alone by NF, where we talk about the music video, some really important imagery to be able to understand with the balloons and the shopping cart and everything. It's intense. And then here's Change by NF, which is also just a really personal, emotional song. Really good stuff. So thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.